Hello, everybody! We're getting closer to the end of the year season. What better time is there to cozy up and talk about some horror? Okay, so for the last couple of years, I've just been ranking every horror movie I've seen just for myself, just for fun on my letterbox. But I thought I might as well make it into a video. Before I start with the list, I just wanna give the disclaimers that I'm not gonna be including sequels to movies I haven't seen, so there's not gonna be any Black Phone 2, Megan 2.0, no, I Know What You Did last summer, and no Bambi the Reckoning, because sadly I haven't had time to get into the Pooniverse yet. I'm hoping to do that next year. And also no Together, because Dave Franco looks too much like James Franco, and the idea of having to watch James Franco kissing someone disturbs me so deeply. And then lastly, and most importantly, I personally don't count Sinners as horror. It has horror elements, but I don't think horror is the main genre. And also because if I did count Sinners, obviously it would be number one, because it is objectively one of the best movies that came out this year and will probably be one of the most important movies of this year when we look back in film history. So I just wanted to keep the number one a bit more mysterious, and therefore Sinners will not be included on here. With that out of the way, let's start with the worst horror movie of the year. At 21...
He's just standing there, menacingly!
The Woman in the Yard is actually one of the worst movies I have ever seen. It is one of the 5 movies that I have given half a star, because I think that this isn't just a bad movie. I think that this utterly fails at even being a movie. Somehow, during the making of this, they managed to completely forget every rule of storytelling. Some of the other movies that I have given half a star to is Martyrs 2015, the American version, The New Mutants, and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
My name is Darren, and I am not a dick!
Okay, if you haven't heard about The Woman in the Yard, it's about a grieving mother who lives on a farm with her 2 kids, and one morning she wakes up and there is a woman sitting in the yard. In their yard. She bought a chair and everything. She's dressed in black. It's in the middle of the day, there is sunlight. I don't understand what is supposed to be scary about it. Like, no amount of Dutch camera angles or a little girl saying, "Mommy, why is there a lady in the yard?" will make a lady in the yard scary. She's not even monstrous or anything. Also, remember, this is a horror movie, but at no point do the stakes or tension become clear. Horror movies to work need clear rules, so that the audience know what to be scared of. You know, for Freddy Krueger, you know with him that he can kill you in his dreams. If you fall asleep, he can kill you. You know that with Jason Voorhees, he walks so slowly, but nothing can stop him. He is coming towards you. He will kill you. At no point did I have an idea as to why the woman in the yard could hurt the main characters. there is some attempt at this movie like being about grief and trauma and suicidal ideation. And if I wanted to, I could probably like try and pick this apart to find the meaning. But honestly, I think that the goal wasn't really to say anything as much as it was to have moments that looked scary and so surreal without actually putting any meaning into it. There is also some implication that the ending is about how like sometimes suicide is good and that is the answer, but there are already other videos discussing that. I just want to say that if the woman in the yard is supposed to be a metaphor for like the main character's the depression, I just want to ask, then why did the woman in the yard kill the main character's dog? Depression usually doesn't make you kill your dog.
It was just a prank, Han.
At number 20, we have Until Dawn, directed by David F. Sandberg, who also made Shazam and Lights Out, if you remember that horror short. So Until Dawn, if you don't know, this was supposedly based on the video game of the same title. Until Dawn came out in 2015, aka peak Markiplier era, so of course I've known about it for like 10 years now, and I have been hearing the rumors about the movie for a while too. So when the trailer came out, it became very clear that this was Until Dawn in name only. This is not why I don't like the film. I am completely fine with them just making another movie that just happens to be titled Until Dawn and that has barely anything to actually do with it. Because the actual synopsis of the movie is really quite interesting. That 5 young adults come to this house looking for one of their missing sister, and they become trapped in the house and monsters starts attacking them. And quickly they learn that every time they die via monster, the night resets and they reincarnate. But they figure out that they have only 13 tries to get out of the house, because after 13 tries and 13 deaths, they die permanently. And that's such a great concept. If you just want to make a fun little haunted house horror movie for 90 minutes, I would love if it was just like short sequences of every 13 nights and the different fucked up deaths. And I think the David F. Sandberg could have done that, because as we know, he can make short horror films. But instead, the pace is just so slow. We spent so much of the movie during like 2 or 3 nights, and those are dragged out for so long. Like, why are you building up for shitty jump scares? This isn't a jump scare type of concept. I wanted 13 different monsters and 35 new ways to die. I get so confused because they removed the Until Dawn concept, they removed the Until Dawn characters, but they kept the Until Dawn monsters that people have been criticizing for being culturally appropriative since the video game came out. If you don't know, in the Until Dawn video game, the monster turns out to be a certain creature from Native American folklore, which in that folklore you aren't supposed to say the name of, so I'm not gonna do that. And using Native American stuff in horror has been a long tradition. Just look at the Shining. So Until Dawn isn't the only one, but people have still been discussing it, and I don't understand why they would bring that controversial monster into the movie if they weren't gonna bring anything else. I thought that the whole point of changing everything about Until Dawn was to wokeify it and get rid of the elephant in the room, but no, they just kept the elephant and got rid of anything else and made it boring.
That means you haven't known the triumphs and defeats, the epic highs and lows of football.
Number 19 is him. Another great entry into the pronoun genre of movies. So the concept of this movie is that what if football was evil and cultish and satanic? Well, what if in modern society, instead of finding religion in church, people find religion in sports? Sports is kind of like a kind of religion, did you know? A lot of this movie's horror hinges on you finding the performance of the antagonist Asaya scary. He is played by Marlon Wayans. 75% of this movie is Asaya monologuing towards our main character, and I think you're supposed to find him disturbing, but I found him instead a bit too much Jokerish, you know, we live in a football society. There is a scene kind of early on in this movie where the main character, who I don't remember the name of, where he is forced to take a physical exam in front of Asaya and everyone else on this football retreat, and he is forced to undress in front of everyone. And I think that is the best scene in the movie, and that is like one of the only scary or like haunting parts of the movie. And I think this would have been better if it focused on this sexual, medical and physical abuse that does go on behind the scenes of football and other sports, instead of going for cult, Satanism, spooky. If a horror movie is mostly about two central men being close and monologuing to each other, it should be more homoerotic, and this wasn't. This was barely even homoerotic. Come on now.
Scooby, Shaggy, oh my god, Daphne, Frederick, oh my god, Mystery Inc.
Number 18 is Shelby Oaks, directed by Chris Stuckman, who is a YouTuber who I have not and don't watch, so I don't have any parasocial feelings about this. I did hear that it was going to be found footage and horror mockumentaries is my favorite subgenre of horror, so I was very excited. And I quickly got blue-balled when after 20 minutes this movie stopped being found footage and just became a normal horror movie. Which I think that can be an interesting concept of shifting subgenres midway through, but I don't think that this was the best execution of that. This was mostly a paint by numbers horror movie. I feel like this movie considered the audience to be stupid in the way that it had to tell very, very clearly what was going on, and it didn't really let us piece things together by ourselves. There is also the fact that like the big twist in this movie is about women being sexually abused. Like I'm sorry to say, but women being sexually abused in horror isn't a twist anymore. It's kind of cliche. Can you do something else? Also, this is another movie where it's like, ooh, cults, religion, Satan, woo.
Maria, the robot. Hi, Maria. What's up, bitch?
Number 17 is Companion, directed by Drew Hancock. So this is a sort of modern The Stepford Wives kind of film, where our main protagonist realizes that she is a robot that was bought and made to be a girlfriend. Then she takes revenge. If you enjoyed this movie, which I know a lot of people did, that's great for you. I think that your expectations when going into this movie impacts it a lot. If you go in just expecting a fun movie that you can kind of turn your brain off at, then you will probably have a great time. I, however, went in thinking that this was going to have a bit more to chew on. I did like the ways that technology was incorporated in creative ways, but otherwise I feel like this had a lot of lost potential. My biggest problem with this movie is that our protagonist's motives are never that clear or explored. Like, our main character, Iris, learns that she is a robot, and after that her main motivation becomes to live freely and away from the man who bought her and used her. But the movie never elaborates on what living means to her. Like, she's a robot. Is her definition of living the same as a human's? I think the movie presumes that, but I think it could have been a lot more interesting if it wasn't the same. We never really know what she wants to do once she's free. Like, does she want to travel? Does she want to see the world? Does she actually want to fall in love in the future? The movie never really explores that. Instead, I feel like Iris was just kind of a bland girl boss. She was really well acted by Sophie Thatcher, who will show up again later. But I think she could have been a more interesting character, and this could have been a more interesting movie.
Ruh-roh, I don't know.
Number 16 is Heart Eyes, directed by Josh Rubin, who is a repeated collaborator with Dropout, and that is how I learned about this movie. This is fine. This is perfectly fine. It's a horror comedy about a serial killer that kills on Valentine's Day. Kills couples specifically on Valentine's Day. And our two main protagonists happens to meet on that day, but they are not on a date. But the serial killer thinks that they are. And shenanigans happens after that. Out of the Noise Boys, Josh Rubin, his humor was the one I connected least with. So I personally found this movie like semi-funny, but I'm sure that if your humor clicks more with him, you will like it more. It also had some great fun kills. And there was a scene where someone presses like a heart-shaped knuckle, so spiky knuckle things into someone's open wound, and that was fun.
But I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo.
Number 15 is Heretic. Sophie Thatcher is back, and she's playing a Mormon.
That piece of garbage whore. I hate her. She's a whore. She's half of New York. I'm very important to God.
This is such a fun concept. It's about two young Mormon missionaries, and they come to a house, and the house is owned by Benoit Blanc's husband, Hugh Grant. And Hugh Grant traps them in his house and does a video essay for like an hour. Remember what I said about him? How the movie was really shouldered by the antagonist's ability to monologue and have a fun monologue throughout. This movie does it correctly. I was having such a good time when it's just Hugh Grant doing his little PowerPoint talking about Lana Del Rey, meowing, and all that. I was having such a good time. I was going, ha ha ha, Mormons, ha ha ha. But then the movie had to come to a conclusion, and the conclusion it came to was kind of cliche. And actually, it came to kind of the same cliche ending as Shelby Oaks. And that is that the shocking twist is that women are being abused. Woo! Aren't you shocked? Aren't you spooked? Did you expect this to happen in your horror movie? Whoa! Like, yeah, I did. I had a good time, even if the ending could have been better. I hope that Hugh Grant is in more horror movies.
I don't know who you can meet online.
The killer! He's the killer. He's the killer. The killer is everywhere. He sounds like he's the killer.
Number 14, we have Presence, directed by Steven Soderbergh, who is also the man behind Ocean's 11, Logan Lucky, Magic Mike. And first of all, I really enjoy that even this far into his career, he is experimenting. I really appreciate that. I gave this movie a heart on Letterboxd, so there was some things here that I really liked. First of all, the concept is great. It's a horror movie, but we are seeing it from the point of view of a ghost haunting the house, and it is through its eyes that we follow the family that moves in there, and like for the first 2/3 of the movie, I was all in. I was locked the fuck in. Get it twisted? I was locked in. I loved all of the family drama, like the implications that Lucy Liu's character is like doing white collar crime. If this just kept being about this kind of fucked up family, I would have given this a high score. Sadly, in the last third of this movie, there's a twist villain that comes in. I don't want to say that the actor did a bad job, because most of the time an actor giving a bad job is more so the director giving them bad directions, but the antagonist was not played well. The rest of the movie was very down to earth and realistic, and this villain came in and was cartoony and goofy and a Scooby-Doo villain. It completely clashed and kinda ruined the movie a bit. Also, before I forget, I need to ask, does no one knock on the door in America? Because all throughout this movie, people are texting each other like, I'm outside the door, come open. Like, why are you texting? Why not just knock? Don't you have a doorbell? Speaking of stuff off topic, right before filming this, I watched Knives Out 3. I have been so Knives Out 3 pilled. Rian Johnson, you will be having my babies. Keep making these movies for forever, please. I beg you.
What the dog doing?
At number 13, we have Good Boy, which is another horror movie with a really fun concept. We are in the point of view of a dog, and we are seeing his owner get possessed? Question mark. The fact that this movie even exists should be applauded. I think that the editing and cinematography used to make Indy the dog seem like he is reacting to the horrors and seem like he is acting. I think that all of that should be commended. It's just that this movie is one of those that are more fun to talk about in a behind the scenes way than to actually watch. Also, you just know that the grandpa in this movie had a bomb ass letterbox.
everybody dies, and that's fucked up.
Everybody dies,
and that's fucked up.
Number 12, we have Everybody Dies, and that's fucked up. The monkey. Okay, so Oz Perkins makes movies that, in my opinion, are kind of mid. Like, they're not the most amazing stuff. But the way that he is able to market his movies are amazing. Like, both Longlegs and The Monkey, I had no interest in watching, but the marketing won me over. Obviously, they are very different kinds of marketing, with Longlegs having a whole RIG, while the Monkey just has a really funny catchphrase. But I think that both of those really... Okay, with The Monkey, the marketing matches, because The Monkey is just a silly, fun movie. Like, maybe what Until Dawn should have been. Meanwhile, Longlegs, I think the marketing made the expectations a bit too high, but that's a whole nother year. The Monkey, Everybody Dies, and that's fucked up, has been like the vocal stim for me all fucking year. Every time I meet one of my friends, I'm like, Everybody Dies, and that's fucked up. I will work it into every conversation I have. By the grace of God, I will get the monkey in there. The movie itself is like Final Destination, but there's a monkey. Theo James, who plays dual roles, he plays both the protagonist and antagonist, since they're twins, sinners-like. He does a great job. He looks so good in this movie. There's a part where he's like covered in blood and he takes off his glasses, his dorky little glasses, and just his eyes aren't covered in blood, and he looks so cute. This is just a fun movie. I gotta say, for a Final Destination-esque movie, I can only remember 2 kills clearly, which maybe says something about how well made the kills are. Like, I watched Final Destination 3 several years ago, and I can still tell you all of the kills in that movie. It's 2025, so of course they had to add some like familial trauma, generational trauma themes into the monkey, but that's fine. Also, not everybody dies in this movie. The marketing lied. Not everybody dies, and that's fucked up. Everybody dies, and that's fucked up. This movie. This movie should be at the top of the list for all of the joy. Everybody dies, and that's fucked up. It brought me over the year. Everybody dies, and that's fucked up.
Hey, how y'all? Get your fucking dog, bitch! It don't bite. Yes, it do!
I'm about to be controversial. At number 11, we have The Wolfman. So if you even remember this movie, you probably remember it as people not liking it, and especially shitting on the Wolfman design, which I agree with. The design is kind of bad. He should be more hairy since he's a wolf. But this movie isn't that good, objectively. But it's another one that I gave a heart to, and then I like it. I get it. The Wolfman was made for me and only me. So, first of all, it is directed by Lee Whannell, aka Adam from Saw. And Adam is my favorite Saw character.
Now you will be tame. You have until 6 on the clock. You have name 6.
Any idea who that is?
There's a man in the room with you. Adam is sympathetic. By 6, you know what 6 sees.
He knows us.
If you do not knock Adam's smoking button, you might be shit yourself.
And I really like Lee Whannell, so I was already biased in this movie's favor. Okay, so it's like about this guy and he had a fucked up childhood and a complicated relationship with his father, and now he's a father himself to a young girl, and his father is dead, so he and his wife and his daughter has to go back to his father's old house, and on the way there he gets affected by the wolf virus, and then he becomes a wolf. But like, the themes, okay, you know, like returning to your old house, which holds all of the memories of your fucked up childhood, and like once you return, you become sick and you become something that your family can't recognize because you revert back to your basic instincts and stuff. I'm not explaining this well. Since I haven't rewatched this movie, let me just read out the review I left on Letterboxd right after I saw this movie. So, is this movie good? No, but I have a serious condition called bitch for Levo syndrome, and Blake, the main character, looks so incredibly breathable in this film. Men shouldn't speak, they should only be sweaty, be covered in blood and whimper. Sometimes they can be allowed to be a cute dad. Okay, so let me explain. The monster design in this sucks. But when he is like slowly transforming into the wolf, and he's like half wolf, and he's like on the floor whimpering and stuff, that design is so good. Let me continue. This is a very clear metaphor for generational abuse / trauma / anger, and is also the obligatory male director got children and is having anxiety about being a good father type of movie. But I do also think there's a really interesting disability reading in here as well. I read a really good review about this where they took him transforming into the wolf and the way he hurts his family while he slowly succumbs to being a wolf as being a metaphor for Alzheimer's, and I think that reading of the movie is so fucking great. Also, all werewolf media give trans vibes, so there is something very trans about returning to your childhood home and your body immediately beginning to change into something you don't really recognize and don't want, but being unable to stop it. There will always be an angry man in your house, and you will never escape your father. Also, this movie confirms that Lee Vanell most definitely has a fetish for foot removal. This movie isn't good, but if you read the themes and you go into it with like disability, with like queerness, with like mental illness, like there is something here that you can get out of it. Absolute cinema. We are entering our top 10. At number 10, we have Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Honestly, I did such a good job not putting this higher. Like, if my heart got to choose, and this was based on like what movie I had the most fun watching, FNAF would have been number 1. But that is just because I was like 10 in 2014, so that means that I automatically have a deep love for FNAF. And the fan service in this movie is so fucking good. Like, when a certain character showed up and they didn't even have to say his name, I just knew that was him. I screamed in the theater. I have the most fun in the cinema when watching FNAF. I scream and holler as quietly as I can because I respect everyone else there. I do sing along to the songs at the end, of course. When the fucking her showed up, I went, I fucking love her. I say it all the time. Everybody dies, and that's her. This isn't for non-FNAF fans. This was made for people who watched Markiplier when they were at an impressionable age. they are well made in the sense that the puppetry and the costumes and the acting is really, really good.
Oh, and the skeleton. Oh, that was really special.
Anyway, at number 9, 28 years later, there was a version of this list where the Wolfman and the Monkey was above 28 years later. But then I got to my senses. So this is directed by Danny Boyle, who made the first 28 Days Later. He also made Trainspotting, which was the movie that made me want to try heroin when I was like 13. Which I don't think is the message that movie is trying to give. As you can hear, then Danny Boyle has had a long career, and again, I admire when filmmakers, even years into their career, experiment and stuff, and there is some very interesting editing choices in this movie, and there are very interesting cinematography choices and coloring choices. It's a very beautiful movie overall. The world is interesting. It's all very well made. The acting is amazing. The costuming is amazing. I loved when the Swedish guy showed up, and I loved it even more when he died. Yippee! I love that big zombie with the big hanging dog. that Jason Momoa looking motherfucker. Yeah. The only thing that I didn't connect with was the characters. And the thing about this movie is it kind of relies on you sympathizing with the characters, and they want you to like be really sad when one of them dies and stuff, and I just didn't feel that emotionally. I completely understand if other people have this much higher on their lists and stuff. I just didn't personally connect with it. The Raph Fiennes part was my least favorite part of the movie. It wasn't bad, it was the part that I felt the least interested in. The last thing about this movie I want to say is that it begins with a cold open of a character called Jimmy on the day that the zombie apocalypse starts. And then he doesn't show up for the rest of the movie. And during the entire time I was watching this, I was waiting for Jimmy to show up, and eventually I just assumed that he was just a cold open, because I am a stupid bitch, and when I saw graffiti in the background that said Jimmy will save us, I didn't connect the dots that I was about to go cold open Jimmy. I thought, wow, that's some fun world building right there. And when somebody had Jimmy carved into their stomach, I didn't connect that either. I thought it said like family, and I was like, that's not how family is spelled. So I was like really stupid, and after a while I just assumed Jimmy wouldn't show up. But then Jimmy showed up at literally the last minute of this movie, and that was one of the funniest parts in cinema this year for me. I got so fucking hyped. I've seen other people hate on it because it's too funny for this serious movie, but I was having the time of my life. I loved the way that the actor who plays Jimmy spoke. He's like, let's fucking go. Everybody dies, and that's fucked up.
Fucking go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So I had real fun at Jimmy showing up until I remembered that this wasn't just an absurd and funny way to end this movie, but that it was actually a tie-in into the franchise and to the next movie. And then I got sad when I remembered capitalism and how it never lets a movie have a full conclusion or be Stasis standalone, that soured the Jimmy swag a bit for me. But the adrenaline kick of seeing him show up was still the highlight for me.
From there,
Yeah?
we're gonna flambe this, okay?
Flambe? What's that mean? Ah! Holy cow! I think you cinched my tips!
Number 8 is Final Destination Bloodlines. So I wasn't originally going to see this movie because the only Final Destination movie I have seen is number 3. And since this had Bloodlines in the title, I assumed that I needed to watch more Final Destination to get it. But then when I went on Tumblr, I kept seeing gifs of this pathetic little emo guy from the movie, and his emo swag transfixed me, and I decided to watch it. And it was a fun time. It was well made, it had fun kills, it strengthened my fear of MRI machines. Those are scary fucking machines. They will kill you. Everybody dies in the MRI machine, and that's fucked up. It did its job of being fun and making me a bit anxious for 1 hour and 45 minutes. And the emo guy was really fun, and I enjoyed it. Number 7 is Hallow Road, which is probably the one that the least people have watched on this list. This movie is about two parents who get a phone call from their daughter, and it's late in the night, and she calls them because she has accidentally run over someone with her car. And instead of calling the police, she calls her parents and wants them to come and get her. And basically the entire movie is in real time the drive the parents are in to get to their daughter. And the relationship between them unravels, and there is also a bit of supernatural stuff that comes in. So this is just like a really great screenplay. It's 80 minutes long. I did think that I was gonna remember it more. I watched this a few months ago, and I haven't really thought about it since.
It's true. I am taking carpentry classes, and it is true I own a gun.
Number 6, we have Weapons. Not even in the top 5. Ooh, I know that some people have this as their top movie of the year. So this is directed by Zach Cregger, who made Barbarian in 2023. He is also gonna be directing the next Resident Evil movie. Weapons is another film that had a really strong marketing campaign. Basically, it said that last night at 2:17 a.m., every child from Mrs. Gandhi's class woke up, got out of the bed, went downstairs, opened the front door, walked into the dark, and they never came back. Every child in the class except for one. So that is a really great mystery, but the marketing also shot the movie in the foot a bit, because the marketing wanted this movie to seem like the scariest movie of the year. Super spooky, you're gonna be shitting bricks in the cinema seat. But then if you actually watch the movie, it's basically a really long setup for a really good punchline. So it's a lot more of a joking movie. Like, it has serious moments, of course, but the central setup is a really good joke. If the marketing had been a little less like, ooh, this is so scary, I probably wouldn't have been as let down. Because during this entire movie, there was one moment that got me spooked. If anyone's curious, it's the scissor scene in the car. If you know, you know. And the rest of the movie was interesting. We see the same events from different perspectives. It's a very Roshima, that's what it's called, right? Roshina movie in that way. But I was just the entire time waiting for it to get spookier. There is also the fact that this movie doesn't really have clear themes. I think this movie tries to get at a lot, but it doesn't really pick one thing and focus on it. And I think that if it just picked one thing to focus on, it could have been a lot more interesting theme-wise. There is also a lot to discuss in the main villain of this movie, who was of course acted amazingly, but there can be a lot said about the way that it's hag exploitation, or its fear of the disabled or the elderly, and it can even be taken as like Gladys being a metaphor for like a queer predator coming into the community and taking the children. I've seen some really great writing about those perspectives. So yeah, I think that this is a really fun movie. I understand if this is your favorite movie of the year, but the ending is really great. It's a great punchline. It's worth sitting through the whole setup to get to it. It's fun. It's fun.
Rev up those fryers, cause I am sure hungry for one. Help! Help! My leg!
Quick costume change. Time to get into the top 5. Starting with number 5, The Long Walk. So, do you remember what I said about him? That if a movie is mostly two guys just talking to each other, it needs to be more homoerotic? Yeah. The Long Walk is that. The concept is that 52 boys, one from each American state, join a contest each year where they walk for as long as they can without breaks, and the last one standing, or rather last one walking, wins a huge monetary prize and also a wish. While everyone else, if they stop walking or if they try to leave the road, they get shot. This is directed by Francis Lawrence, who also directed the Hunger Games, and he's a great fit because this is a very Hunger Games type of movie, even though it's based on a book by Stephen King from like the 70s. So technically the Hunger Games is a long walk kind of movie, but you get it. This movie is just dudes walking for nearly 2 hours, and you might be worried that it will get boring, but I was locked in. Get it twisted, I was locked in during this entire movie, because the characters in these movies, even though you only get to know them for a short time, are so good, and I was so worried about them. And also, it's gay. I watched this less as a horror movie and more as a romance movie between two guys, featuring a third guy in the background who was constantly out mugging everyone else. Like, most of the cast is in a horror movie. The two main dudes are in a romance, and this third guy, he's in a L'Oreal Paris commercial. If you didn't like this movie, you have to put on your yaoi lenses and re-watch it. And it is also the movie that as soon as it finished, I went onto the Tumblr and searched to see fan art and stuff, because I just wanted more of the characters. Now, this isn't just good because I have shipper brain. It's also good in the thematic ways that a lot of Hunger Game-esque movies are, but this also adds an element of queerness to it. Like, I am not brain-wormed into thinking this is gay. This is legitimately gay. Even the original book was. So it's a lot of intersectionality between queerness and race and class, and how they interconnect in an oppressive society that obviously mirrors our own society. This has a lot of specific points about the US military system. I can imagine, since this was written during the 70s, that it was probably inspired by the Vietnam War. It is a real movie, and Yowie. Also, Mark Hamill is in this. I did not realize it was him. So often I watch a movie and there's a Mark Hamill shaped person in it, and I just don't realize that it's him until I read it in the credits. I can't forget, I gotta shout out Tumblr user Oh Goodness I Don't Know for their edit to this movie, to this audio of boots moving up and down again, because that edit was what convinced me to watch this. Thanks.
You really are the most devious bastard
in Germany. Number 4, Nosferatu. And before you say anything about this being a 2024 movie, I'm European, so this came out a bit later in my country than in the US of A. And therefore it came out in January for me of this year, so I am counting it. It's made by Robert Eggers, and to be honest, it is so high just because it can't be argued that this movie isn't incredibly well made. Like, even if you find the script or the story to be boring, just turning the audio off and looking at it is honestly so beautiful. The production, the design, the costume, the design, the acting, everything is just top notch. I was excited for this movie because I have long since been a Nicholas Hoult fan, and I knew that 2025 was gonna be the year of Nicholas Hoult, and people were finally going to see how great he was in this and in Superman, and I was correct. He did such a good job. I fuck heavily with the original Nosferatu. If you haven't seen the OG Nosferatu, go and watch it.
I hope you're happy, my friend.
I also think that this movie obviously has a lot to dive into thematically, and I think it is interesting that the relationship between Ellen and Dr. Orlok, Count Orlok, Nosferatu, the relationship between them can both be seen as an abusive relationship, specifically like as Ellen having been abused or groomed sexually as a child by Count Orlok, and the complicated sexual feelings that can come with that. But it can also be just seen as Ellen being repressed sexually, because it's the Victorian era, and Count Orlok being a metaphor for the sexuality that she wants to express, and especially maybe a darker form of sexuality and kink. I like that it can be interpreted in either an abusive or non-abusive way. I also fuck heavily with Nosferatu Count Orlok being a metaphor for the Black Plague.
There is only one thing worse than a rapist. Boom. A child. No.
At number 3 is Frankenstein by Guillermo del Toro. If you've been on my YouTube channel before, you might be aware that I fuck heavily with Frankenstein. And I also fuck heavily with Oscar Isaac. So I had very high expectations for this movie. And I have to say that it didn't reach those expectations. It is still gorgeous to look at. I think that every actor did an amazing job, and especially Jacob Elordi managed to capture everything that I want to see in a Frankenstein portrayal. And by that I mean the childlike innocence and the movement of somebody who was just born but in an adult body. There are scenes I love in this movie. I loved that scene of I am doing the Cynthia Erivo thing. I love that scene of Victor Oscar Isaac going fucking crazy, getting it twisted while he was making the creature. I loved seeing him like tearing up bodies and like cutting into bodies. It was such good gore. It was so I know that Oscar Isaac is like straight up naked in this movie, but as an asexual person, that scene of him tearing limbs apart and the blood gushing out, that was the peak sensuality of the movie for me. Then on the negatives, listen, there's a scene of William, Victor's younger brother, calling Victor a monster directly to his face.
I know writers who use subtext and they're all cowards.
I think in the original book, and also kind of in the OG movie, the character of Frankenstein and the monster are a lot more morally grey, while I feel like in this movie a lot of their morality was smoothed over to make Victor a lot worse and the creature a lot better. And I think it could have been more interesting if they were allowed to be more grey. I also want to say that this movie is about daddy issues, while I think the book has been and always will be about mommy issues. Victor Frankenstein doesn't have the daddy issues. He has postpartum depression. It irked me a bit that the themes of like motherhood and being a woman and all that was kind of put aside to focus on the daddy issues. But I can also recognize that was because Guillermo del Toro had a vision based on his experiences growing up, Latina and all that he wanted to convey. And I can recognize that when watching the movie, I don't get as much out of it as someone who has more similar experience to Del Toro would. It's a fantastic movie in a lot of regards, but as a lover of the original story, there were some baffling choices. Also, there was no Maria scene. Maria showed up, but there was no throwing her into or like saving her from a fucking lake, and that disappointed me. Don't edge me like that. If a little girl named Maria shows up in a movie, she either has to get kicked into a river or saved from a river, and that's the rules. Also, ending this movie with a quote from Lord Byron was fucking wild. You're not even gonna quote Mary Shelley herself, you're gonna quote Lord Byron? The man who fucked half of New York City?
You really are the most devious bastard.
Denmark.
At number 2, we have the Ugly Stepsister. And if you haven't heard about this movie, it's probably because it's a tiny Danish/Swedish movie, and I was obviously always going to be biased in its favor because I am always happy when a Nordic weird little horror movie comes out. This movie was so fucking good. Like, it is so clear that they had a tiny budget, but they were able to make so much out of that budget. And this is probably, except for maybe number one, the movie that disgusted me the most. Like, this movie was not good for my intrusive thoughts. I left the cinema not being able to eat for like a day afterwards because my brain kept going on about worms and stuff, and there is also some eye trauma shown in very clear detail that made me ooh. Leah Murian plays the main character, and I know that she won't be nominated, but I wish she could be nominated for an Oscar, because her crying and throwing up in this movie is some of the best I've ever seen on film. It felt so real, so realistic. When she was throwing up, I was like, yeah, that's how I throw up. Thematically, it's about I should probably say what it's about. In a fairy tale kingdom where beauty is a brutal business, Elvira battles to compete with her incredibly beautiful stepsister, and she will go to any length to catch the prince's eye. So this is a fucked up Cinderella story told from the perspective of the ugly stepsister, but I think it also has some, aside from just talking about beauty standards and all that, obviously it also has some very interesting points about sexuality, and it shows you that sexuality very clearly. There is pussy and penis in this movie. Let me tell you that.
Penis to vagina.
Objectively, Nosferatu and Frankenstein are probably a lot more well made than this and number one, but this and number one connected with me emotionally more and made me feel more scared and more grossed out and more disgusted, and just gave me stronger reactions overall. I just realized I am wearing this shirt the wrong way. So let's go into what I could consider is the best horror movie of 2025. So, Bring Her Back. You might have noticed during this video, such as by the fact that just thinking about the Wolfman from a disabled perspective made me enjoy that movie more, that I really like when disability is discussed in horror and not just as a disgusting or like scary thing. And Bring Her Back has one of the best and most interesting portrayals of disability in a horror movie that I can think of. It's about these two siblings who lose their parents and get taken into the foster system and get taken in by this very nice lady. And one of the siblings is blind, or like mostly blind, and she is played by an actually blind actress. And the way that her blindness is used in this movie is so creative, and the way that it blends so well with like the actual gaslighting and abuse that goes on in this movie is so good. There are some moments in this movie that made me gasp with the audacity of the villain. It is also definitely the movie that actually scared me the most this year. I was very on edge because the characters were very likable, and it became very clear that they were in very real danger, because the gore in this movie is not fucking around. They show you some fucked up shit in this movie. I was sitting in the cinema going, who, like, I wanted to watch, but I was almost afraid to. The things that they do to one of the kids in this movie are fucking insane, and you know that it's coming, and you just have to sit there and wait for it to happen, and they show you everything. I should mention this is directed by the Filippo brothers, who are the same people who made Talk to Me a few years back. Another movie that I really liked, and that also had some disgusting shit happening to a kid, and I went, yes, fuck that kid up. But I think that Bring Her Back is better. I also think that it is more interestingly thematically, because it goes into the foster care system and how easily kids can be exploited in it, which is something that surprisingly not a lot of horror movies goes into. The Filippo brothers directed this, the brothers, and it is very clear that this is made by a pair of siblings, because their relationship between the main siblings, Ross Lynch as I like to call him, the relationship between him and his sister, and especially him as a sort of caregiver to his sister, is so well written and well acted. They really feel like siblings. I can't think of a horror movie that has show that in quite some time, except for maybe Hereditary, but I have some very complicated feelings about the use of disability in Hereditary and Ari Aster movies. And it made me feel so much for them. Like, bitches were tearing up into the cinema, and by bitches I mean me. This is the only movie this year that had me not crying, because I'm on a lot of medication, and it makes it very hard for me to actually cry. But I teared up, and that doesn't happen often. In my heart, as soon as I saw it, I knew that it was gonna be the movie of the year. That's that. I got to rant about horror movies for a long time, and if you watched it, I hope you enjoyed watching it. I guess tell me what your favorite horror movies was from this year. And do you agree or disagree? I hope you have a good holiday. I hope you have a good horror year. Don't forget to watch Black Christmas now during this holiday time. And if anyone is wondering what horror movie I am looking forward to the most in 2026, it is Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma. Jane Sean Braun has not disappointed me yet, and I don't think she will. And as always, Jungenskog is here to remind you to like and subscribe, and to say thanks for watching. So bye!
You really are the most devious bastard in New York City.